Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We are going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Simon, Belgian post-metal. Hope you like it. The song, as well as the album, deals with introspective themes about humanity gaining consciousness, creativity, and power again after losing it in ancient times. That is a very interesting concept to build any story off of, much less a concept album. Let's dive into this. We're going to be looking at The Fall of Consciousness from the band Psychonaut. Let's dive into it. Nice build up right here. I love the little bit of a hocket because the two guitars are trading off ideas. Massive bass tone here at the bottom. Oh, beautiful vocals. Grit, power. Matches the size of the band really well. Okay. Nice little bit of syncopation against the backbeat. I love that riff. Yeah, dude. And I like how it's used in different contexts too, with this lighter guitar, heavier guitar, full size guitar in the chorus. There's a lot of vertical movements in this. The verse goes up, but here you can hear it on the guitar, on the bass. The chorus always has descending ideas. Nice layering of the vocals. Dang, lots of tension there. Nice layering there, not just of the two vocalists, but also the guitar. Really becoming a peak of this song so far, allowing the energy to dwindle here. Love the tom heavy drumming back there. The bass just laying it down. Great production on the drums. So good. Syncopated snare in here. Very groovy for post-metal. Kind of has a bluesy vibe on the guitar solo too. Harmonizing. Getting up on the bell of the ride cymbal, yeah. Interesting bending, giving us microtones. It feels like the chorus on the guitars, but not in the vocals. Ah, dang, dude. I wish we had stuck with that for a while. That was a good point. The size, the layers, the vocals harmonizing there. Well, texture layering, anyways. Just to peter out, a fast fade out there. Yeah, I'm not always on board for a return to a chorus for a third, or I think it's third time through on this. But dude, what they were doing there, I could have taken another repetition of that, a full chorus length. I'd even taken the pacing might have been a little off. I was gonna say I'll even take a second version of a full run of that chorus there at the end. But that might be too much. But I hope I'm coming across clearly that I really enjoyed that final section. Just everything. I don't even know if it was just that it was great, by itself or just coming out of the guitar solo, it has impact. I don't know, dude. So good. I want more moments like that. For 9 minutes of music, there's not a lot of music to dive into on this, which it's pretty typical for post-metal. We have some pretty nice guitar riffs in here. We have some excellent drumming throughout. I love the bass work in places. There are some times when the bass is just, they just hold the line. That's fine. But they do get to shine a little bit. The clean vocalist is amazing. I love the variety that we get. We get that big, booming, projected sound. We get the lighter, more ethereal, little airy sound going on too. We have the harsh vocalist who's just like, dude, what in the world? That is just a massive fry scream there. It's got the width of a growl, but cuts through like a fry. I don't know, dude. I'm going to assume layering in there. There might be two different screams going on. It's just, it hit you like a truck, and the fry screams don't usually do that. It is wild. Everyone's killing it on this. A lot of this song is about weight, too. Right from the beginning, we got these big booming guitars. We got this big drum work. And that's a lot of the track. Big sounds, overbearing, weighty, wall of sound stuff. But there's actually a really nice separation between instruments in the production that it never becomes a true wall of sound. It feels like one, but the instruments never coalesce into a single, like sonic object. And I really like that clarity in the production. Even right off the start, I was talking about how the two guitars are doing slightly different things. The opening is the two guitars with the riff, and they're kind of trading off. They come in together after like the first quarter of it. They kind of take two beats and then take two beats and then come back in. Creates a fun little like mini hocket going on there. And it feels cool. You got the sound bouncing back and forth, but the guitars sound very similar too. And I think that creates an interesting like stereoscopic kind of thing going on there. A little bit of double vision, a little bit of blurring of the lines of these two. It's not like post-hardcore or even black metal where the two guitars are going to be very distinct in timbre. No, they both sound very similar. Might even be the exact same guitar tone, double tracked here, and then one put on each side. But I think because they sound so similar, the passing back and forth, almost the narrowing out of the combined sound every once in a while, it creates a very cool effect. But even here, when it's just two guitars, it's so big. You can just tell this is going to be a big post-metal wall of sound style of music. But there's that distinction. Even though the guitars sound so similar, you can already feel they're doing two different things. There's that clarity to the mix. And that's consistent throughout. I feel that post-metal often loses the bass in things because post-metal loves bassy electric guitars, and the bass guitar kind of gets swept up into that. But there's also just so much going on that my ears, I'm just terrible at hearing bass to begin with. But especially when it's such a convoluted grouping of sounds, the bass is one of the first things for me that gets lost in the mix. And that doesn't happen here. I can hear the bass clearly in every part of this track. The drums are crisp, they're punchy, they sound phenomenal. The vocals never really get lost. There was one line at the beginning, I think it was the first verse, the end of the first verse maybe, and kind of brings it down to almost a speaking voice, a little sing-songy, lower energy, much more comfortable range. At that point, it kind of got swallowed up by the instrumentation, but I'm going to wager that's purposeful. I'm probably going to go those lyrics, and it's about falling or being consumed by something. It's like, it's going to be thematically appropriate because so much of the vocal delivery and production feels so purposeful. It feels intentful. So one specific line where the vocals get swallowed by everything else, yeah, there's a reason for that. So there's just a solid clarity throughout this entire track, but it never loses that oomph. I feel like a lot of bands, or at least producers maybe, fall into either clear, well, I guess that's it. It's clear production, but it's too clean, or it's gritty production, but it's too muddy. And whoever produced this song right here, they got it right in the middle. It does not lose its weight, its impact, its griminess, but I can make everything out. There's so much clarity to this. I absolutely love this. I think more metal should, whoever produced this, whoever's the engineer, just go into the world of metal, dude. Start producing everything. Produce anything you can get your hands on. I'll listen to it. All right. I've talked about quite a bit of things already and haven't really touched on anything going on in the song yet. All right, here's a major point to me. This is the fall of consciousness. I noticed vertical movement all over the place in this track. First of all, I talked about that really cool rising idea that kind of gets more and more tense as we go up. The harmonic instability is increasing with each higher note. This happens in the verse, and it's, I think it's the last quarter of the guitar riff in the verse. And so we have this rising feeling. The entire song has a general rising action to it. But I think also when we pay attention just to pitch and we go to the chorus, we find that we alternate between just low end rumble and then da 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 da. I'm not a singer, those are long pitches, but the idea is this descending idea. And then we'll do a low rumble, then we'll descend a different group of notes. And then a low rumble, I think we descend the first group of notes again. The verse has a very clear attention. I mean, everything cuts out for this guitar to do this cool rising technique. You can't miss that. At least in the chorus, there's a lot of things going on. Maybe you miss the guitar descent, but rising and falling pitch patterns in the melody, in the main riff that's played over and over and over. You hear these rising and falling ideas all over the place. I wonder if that has something to do with it. I mean, like I said, it is called the fall of consciousness. So, and you can't miss it. Even in the solo, a lot of the solo was kind of like, we're just doing this right here, especially with that back and forth hammer-on idea that we were kick it off with. Just kind of changing the pitch of these two notes. Once we got past that, though, there was a point where I was like, dude, the guitarist is rising and falling. Not necessarily arpeggiating up, not necessarily playing scales up and down, but a distinct movement up and a distinct movement back down. Now, granted, in solos, in melody, rising and falling ideas are pretty common, so maybe I'm just reading too far into that, but I think with a song that's so focused on rising ideas and falling ideas in isolation, I don't think it's out of my area to look at rising and falling concepts in a lead melody and say, I wonder if that means anything given the other rising and falling ideas in the track. And, I bet if I talked to the guitarist or whoever wrote that solo, I bet I'd be on the right track about this. So anyways, that's something that's all over this, and I think is just as important as the weightiness of this entire track. Now, I think the last thing, unless something pops into my mind while I'm talking about this, the last thing I want to bring up here is general dynamics. I really love how this song has highs and lows while still never really losing its edge. We do have lighter sections for lighter guitar ideas, lighter vocal sections, but they never really feel like there's a lack of darkness or a lack of weight to them. They are more open. They are less claustrophobic, but it's still a darkness. The song still feels overbearing. And I really love that mix there because it allows the song. One thing that I have an issue with a lot of post-metal is just repetition, right? I get it, dude. It's emotionally draining to sit at a 10 intensity for, upwards of 10, 15 minutes at a time for a song. That's the purpose of these tracks. It doesn't always work for me. I don't always want to feel drained after I listen to music, and I'm one who values in a sense, novelty of constant movement. I like dynamics in my music. So post metal has always been a genre that I've enjoyed from arm's reach, and I like this. It gives me some of that rising and falling action, but it never gives up its weight. Much like I love the compromises in the production that still embodies both sides of the grittiness and the clarity, this finds a compromise, somehow walks down the middle and gives us the constant weight and overbearing factor while still providing dynamic rises and falls. Layers shift, instrument sounds shift, harmonic ideas shift, and yet the song never loses that identity, that weight. I don't know how it's done. Much like the production, it's kind of borderline magic for me, but it works so well. And I'm glad to have found this. I think I've praised Psychonaut's work in the past, but this right here tells me that I need to, if nothing else, start with this album, Unfolding the God-Man, in my journey of, well, maybe just Psychonauts, but certainly post-metal at large. I really like what's going on here. They have a 2025 album? Oh, it's a single. Came out a couple months ago. Oh, they have a couple of singles from this. I know I'm a bit off topic here. I might have to check out these singles and keep an eye out for this album. Anyways, dynamic quality. Oh yeah, dude, layers too. Having the clean vocals versus the harshes, having the harshes come in so impactful. It really caught me off guard there in the chorus. The first time through, the second time through, I was ready for it. I was like, let's go. But the first time, I mean, it comes out of nowhere. And like I said, this harsh vocalist just knocks it out of the park. Definitely has the power of growls, but is doing it in fry vocals, which just sounds better to my ear. Growls are impressive, just, not a super big fan of the growl in timbre and texture. And then once we start layering the clean vocals, when we bring the guitars in under them, these texture stacks are amazing. And I love how we continue to build this up too. There is a massive peak where we get guitar cleans and harshes right before the guitar solo. And yet what seemed like the biggest moment the song could get at that time is trounced upon. Something comes in even higher than that in those final moments. That last chorus, I've already waxed poetically about it, but I mean, dude, it's just all the instruments coming together on like a single rhythm, single melodic flourish, and just being this massive moment. It's something that the song alludes to, points to, foreshadows, but it does it all subtly. It is like a really good twist ending in a film where once it happens, you're like, oh yeah, dude, that makes a lot of sense. But in the moment to moment, you're just kind of curious, what's all this leading to? And I think this is one of the first songs that's really clicked with me that way. Usually I see it coming a mile away and, yeah, we're going to get this big ending here, or this is foreshadowing something. Music is a language. You can kind of interpret where it's going and make hypotheses. Or it's the other way where even after the twist happens, I'm just kind of lost. Why'd they do that? I don't understand it. It's too much for me after just the first listen. It would take a bit more for me to get it. But this, once again, walks that very fine line. I got it on the first listen, but it still caught me off guard. Yeah, dude. Psychonauts, dude. Dude, so great, dude. Let me check out some lyrics to this. All right, so through a little bit of my own understanding here, minus the context around it, and it seems a bit of a description of this song by someone in the band. Doesn't state whom. This is a story about a fifth dimension being dropped into a third dimensional layer. There's a separation of their higher understanding of things into a simplicity of form. The beginning states, "Creator, I am no more." The giant descends, reversing my I, to conjure the whole. Not I, but the letter I, the self, reversing myself to conjure the whole. It says, "I sink into you and separate the one." Now, this is all very high concept, but as far as I can tell, it is a separation of... It is high concept, isn't it? I'm not even gonna lie here. I don't fully get all of this, but it is a separation of higher understandings of self and removing those larger concepts of embodiment. And you know what? This is difficult to understand because I'm a third dimensional being here. How did Psychonaut write this? How do you write something from the fifth dimension when you don't even understand what that sense of existence could even be? Anyways, though, that's what it feels like, being stripping away these higher ideas of consciousness and putting them into a mortal human idea of life and the world. It says, "You're stealing my sight to shape the sun," the light source in space. "Surrounded by shadows." That's interesting, given that we just talked about the sun. It says, "Surrounded by shadows, I dive into the all." Now, this is where the chorus kicks in, give or take. It says, "Desolation covering my I, myself, severing the serpent for now, brings upon a temporary element." It says, "I know that you're around, spectating my voyage into the ground." This phrase is repeated multiple times, saying that I know that this other part of me, this higher functioning form, this fifth dimensional element, this part that I've been disconnected from, I know you're watching me, spectating my voyage into the ground, this descent, this fall. It says, "Every second it shuts, my third silent eye, the cycle is now. I can't bear the revising of my eye." This time, eye, ocular. I think it's very cool, the wordplay here, moving from I the self to I the vision. It says, "Tears pour down my edges and they drown somehow. I know that you're around, spectating my voyage. Why?" And I think this is interesting because the first time around, it seems to be a nudge, a little thing. I know you're still here, but this is questioning. I feel your presence. Why are you here? A loss of knowledge. It's been so long since they've been separated from their higher form. They don't even recognize it anymore. What are you doing here? The end, though, I think, is where a lot of this comes together for me, because otherwise it's a really neat concept. This is where things click, though. This says, "This is where I grant you purpose. Know that you are eternal, but this is where I release you into the fall." This idea of purpose, that the separation, the descent from a major fifth dimension being into third dimension, losing all of that information, the understanding of self and existence, that it's purpose built. As mentioned earlier, we're shaping the sun. We're diving into the all. It kind of makes me curious about what came before this and where the album goes from here. I guess in another way, I'm kind of intrigued about the concept part of this album. But I think that this idea, this is a vast, massive, semi-spiritual, very above my pay grade philosophical approach to this story. It feels larger than life because it's beyond anything that a simple third dimensional being like myself could even grasp at. The music captures that really well, but it also The descent feels like a loss of things, but there's a purpose to it. It's mentioned a couple of times that it is all for a reason. There is a descent, but there's something to be built back out of it. Falling ideas, rising ideas. I wonder if any of the rising concepts on this track will be revisited in future tracks, particularly ones that focus on the rebirth parts of this journey. I think that would be a really cool way to bring parts of the album together. But, you know, I don't know. I haven't listened to the rest of the album yet. But the overbearing weights and the descending ideas, the rising ideas, I think all of it captures this really well. It's a great way to bring these themes together lyrically and musically, but these are just my thoughts on Psychonaut's The Fall of Consciousness. What are yours? Do you enjoy this? Did you find anything in it you'd like to add on to what I said, or maybe correct me on if I misspoke? Do you have your own interpretation of things? Please put all of that and anything else you'd like to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.